Welcome to Coach's Corner, everybody. Thanks for watching this show. I'm your host, Coach Tripp, here on Wednesday night as we do the four-wheel drive show every Wednesday night with new topics. A good friend of mine, high school teammate at Liverpool High School, Billy Pendock, in the house.
Yeah, right up there. Yeah.
Right up there. Defensive tackle for Syracuse in the early 80s, went on to play in the pros. Below me, Blaze Winter. What's up, Blazer? And you are beautiful, baby. You are just looking dapper today. Just got back from the doctor's office, and we talked about on our show a few weeks ago about sacrifice and injuries and everything. So catch that podcast. But today, our subject is titled Transactional Coaches. This is brought to you by Pensacola Glass, the clear choice for all your glass needs. That's right. Four-wheel drive topic today is bad coaches. As this week, we're going to quote from Joe Ehrmann's book, Inside Out Coaching. It's a must read if you know anybody that coaches or plays sports. And today we're going to explore a few topics relating to transactional coaches. Okay. First, I'll explain what a transactional coach is, and then we'll hear from Joe and his 5 types of transactional coaches. They are the opposite of transformational coaches. Transactional coaches can be tyrants, demeaning, degrading to the players, a coach who hollers all the time and is intimidating and fearful. Okay, we've all had them at one time if we played sports for any length of time. A transactional coach is the kind who uses his players as tools to meet his own personal needs for validation, status, or identity. Okay, as opposed to transformational coaches who are other-centered, these transactional coaches are self-centered. A quid pro quo type of transaction. I give you something, I get something in return. Old transaction. Now, I want to reiterate how powerful this book, Inside Out Coaching, is. People magazine actually called Joe Ehrmann the most important coach in America, unquote. Now, he played football and lacrosse at Syracuse University. He was a first-round choice of the Colts. He played 12 years in the NFL. But his football coach at Syracuse was a typical transactional coach. And his football and his lacrosse coach was just the opposite, a classic transformational coach. Now, I duly note that the football team at Syracuse back then was not very good, but the lacrosse team, oh, my friend, under Roy Simmons, they won numerous national championships. So let's explore Coach Ehrmann's 5 types of transactional coaches. Number 1, the dictators. Number 2, the bullies. Number 3, the narcissists. Number 4, the saints. And number 5, the misfits. Joe describes them. He calls it win-at-all-cost mentality. The dictator coach is a coach who has his way without suggestions or any input from his assistants or players. No feedback, no meaningful open communication with his team. I've seen a few of those. Combine that with the number 2 on the list, bully coach. Coach Bully roars at players and associates and keeps them at a distance. A bully coach's repertoire includes shouting, cursing, personal denigration, humiliation. So the intimidating coach can be very difficult to approach and feel connected to. Coach Bully has an incomprehensible need to dominate his players, sometimes emotionally and verbally abuse them. Sometimes these coaches don't realize what they're doing. Sometimes, the damage is they don't realize what they're having on their players. The first thing you have to do is examine yourself. You have to become transformational. You have to ask yourself the hard questions. Why do I coach? How do I coach? What does it feel like to be coached by me? And how do you measure and define success? Hence the name of Joe Ehrmann's book, Inside Out Coaching. You must start with yourself, self-examination. Joe started out with transactional tendencies, and so did I when I started coaching. We're not perfect. We slip up once in a while. I was a much better coach, though, 20 years later. My high school coach, Joe Leary, really good high school coach, and Blaze, your college coach, he could be transactional at times, but he was also transformational. My high school coach, Coach Bear Bryant, could be tough as nails, but he could be transformational in the same day. I don't remember all the grueling workouts, but I do remember the transformational meetings I had with George O'Leary and Coach Bear Bryant. The conversations we had literally changed the course of my life. Coach Ehrmann explains something interesting in his book how bullying is manifested in coaches. Coach Ehrman he talks about himself as a young coach, and he quotes himself saying, when a player or parent triggered the part of me that had been bullied in the past, the bully in me would rise up and rage as a bully coach. As a part of my inside work, I am ever mindful of this impulse, and I'm happy to say it rarely happens now, unquote. We'll get into some of the other ones later on, but Blaze, your input on the first, I think you have to answer yourself as a coach. We'll get into your coaching, and we'll talk about Brett Key, the head coach at Georgia Tech, as you coach with him at UCF. We want to talk about them a little bit.
The first thing I want to say is that this has a lot of layers. The idea of coaching and parenting someone, that's another way of saying you're an extension of a family. As a coach, you're an extension of the family. You're part of that parenting role. You're carrying on what mom and dad and grandma might be planning in the man or young woman. So you have to take into consideration if a player's coming before you at his high school, this is different than if he's coming before you at college or the NFL. I mean, coaches fail when they don't understand that, hey, I'm more of a parent in a high school level than I am a pro level. At a pro level, I'm a manager. I manage players and know their abilities, and they know their strengths and weaknesses, and they know how to communicate. And we have them here because a whole series of people believe in that person. And my job is to coach him. I mean, college coaches are somewhat in between. So there's many layers of this. The words are phenomenal that you just went through and the definitions. But the way I always see it is that the coach has to understand, number one, if he's a head man, what is his behavior going to be like for his staff? To his staff, to get the most out of the player, the staff has to be in line with the head man. It's not just, we're going to coach the player and we're going to leave the assistant coaches out of the equation. Or I'm an assistant coach and we're going to leave the other coaches out of the equation. I hate to put so much into it, Billy, you know what I'm talking about. There are layers to this, and it's extremely complex. And the complexity, the last thing I'll say is coach to coach, coach to player, different level, high school, youth high school, college, pro, old pro, new pro. I mean, my Lord, man, and you really have to be to what's coming at you. What is the background in that kid? I don't believe in, I'm going to coach Billy one way and Blaze another. You don't have time for that if you're a pro guy or a college guy. But if you're a high school coach, you better understand what he might be learning at home.
Right.
If his home world is, I'm still trying to decide if I'm going to be a man or a woman, that's a whole nother animal that you're coaching compared to someone who says, I'm a man. And you have to bring him down to earth and say, no, you're not a man, you're a boy. You haven't learned it all yet.
Right.
So you really have to understand those things. That is why we always admire great high school coaches, is because they really have the hardest job.
Right.
At college, you cherry pick some of these dudes. And they've grown a little bit more. And at pro, that's the easiest job in America. That's the easiest job because, hey, man, these are players cherry picked to fit a system that you run. You just have to make sure they line up in the right spot and they feel good about themselves.
Billy?
So funny, but true.
Well, I'll tell you, to Blaze's point, and I was going to comment the same way. You got a lot of different avenues you can take, and like he said, you look down at Pop Warner, you look at the high school coaching. The parents are trusting you with their kids. You know, the way you're gonna nurture and take care of these kids and bring them along. You know, and you really need all aspects of some of the points that he was making. You know, here and you want to be you want to be tough on the kids at some time. You want to teach them kind of a discipline. And I've always said that there's no game like football to help these kids form a life and form a way they're going to go forward when they become adults. And absolutely, when you get into high school coaching, maybe even the first couple of years of college coaching is maybe the most important part of a coach's job. You know, so I've always looked back, and I've had hundreds and hundreds of kids come through my program. I've coached kids with football, and I always think back to the parents just, you know, they're dropping their kids off to you for 4 or 5 hours in a day. You have to make an impression on those kids and try to help them, not as far as much as winning and losing, but to help teach them something that they're going to take with them. Because let's face it, 1 or 2%, maybe 3% are going to go on to play in a college program. Maybe half of that or a quarter of that is going to go on to play at a pro level. I mean, it's not the end of the world. So, and I have kids, you know, now they're not kids anymore. They're coming back to me in their 30s and 40s now that I've had when they were 12, 13 years old. And the first thing they'll say to me is, you know, the things you taught me, I took in my personal life now, and I've never forgotten those things, you know. And I think a high school coach can make the most important impression on a young adult coming up through. So,
well, it's good or bad. Let's talk about bad coaches, or let's talk about transformational coaches. Let's tell the story. I can tell some stories.
We all got stories. I mean, I'm not going to name names, but we all got horror stories of coaches we've had that, you know, you could tell. And I'm going to tell you this. You know, we go back to the 4-wheel drive, the 4 of us, and I'm going to tell you this. I could probably speak for all 3 other guys. The 4 of us would stand and take a bullet for Coach George O'Leary.
Yes.
I mean, and that's not because of fear. It's not because of it was a respect thing and a way he was taught. But now when you look forward into our head coach at that point, I'm not gonna go into names. People probably know, and that it's a whole different aspect for myself. I wouldn't, you know, the way I was treated and the way I was looked down upon by my head coaches back in some of the places I played, I wouldn't I wouldn't give you 2 cents for some of them guys, you know.
I think a person like, let's take George O'Leary. George O'Leary, who was at you forever, he was a master at delivering a consistent message to his staff. He never asked you to do something he would not do himself. He demanded time put in and uncovering every degree in the equation that needed to be uncovered to make improvements. He never tolerated anyone being mediocre, anyone accepted being mediocre, and he pressured, as the head coach, his staff. I saw it before my eyes. I mean, Brett Keys is a great example of a disciple of George O'Leary.
Yeah, let's talk about Brett. You coached with Brett Key.
Brett Keys has simply stayed true to what he learned from the master George, which is do it in this order. Remember, Keys was also with Alabama's coach, Nick Saban.
Right.
Same type of dude, man. Same type of coach that believed in, we're doing it this way.
Yep.
This is the way we're going to get it done. And he had the ability, both of them had the ability to go out there and what? Recruit the people they wanted for the most part.
Right.
And sometimes that's a huge part of it, is to have personnel people or coaches in the staff room that go out on the road and know what George O'Leary wants. And George O'Leary would be the first to say, well, why are you bringing me him? Well, coach, he's this, and this. He's all world. Yeah, but he's 405 pounds and can barely touch his toes. Well, what do you want me to do with this? Or he would turn around and say, you want him, stand on the table, because if you want him, you're putting your name on the line. You're putting your job on the line. And he would put that type of pressure on his staff. This is why he was consistently at Georgia Tech, where he's the head man, at Minnesota, running the defense, and in UCF, University of Central Florida.
Yep.
I mean, he was a successful person because he coached his staff. And people wonder, well, why were people coming and going? Because he would rattle your world. He would hurt you emotionally if you weren't strong. If you weren't ready for it, I'm one of those dudes. He was going to try to bully you, even though he knew I was a great player. He was going to try to test your will to see if you would break, because he didn't want to go to battle with a staff of people that translated to his players that they were weak. And man, he was a master at understanding, here's the order. And he also was a master at telling me and whispering in my ear, let me do the dirty work. You be the nice guy. Today, you be the nice guy to your players. Let me be the bad guy.
All right.
Because I'd be chewing on him for not doing the little things right, because I was coached by George O'Leary to what? Believe the little things matter. But there was a time that he would be like, no, let me be that bad guy, man. Let me bring it. I will handle the bad stuff. So he was constantly playing this complex game with all these different personality types. And it was just so amazing to watch. And then his staff would step on the field and simply implement what the man wanted. And he would fine-tune his staff like most great head coaches do to get what he wanted from his players. And it was just a masterful job from one person. I saw the same from Jim Tressel. I saw the same from Mark D'Antonio. I saw the same from some amazing coaches that I was either around or actually worked for.
All right. Hey, let's talk bad coaches. I know all the good coaches you guys have. Let's talk bad coaches. Now, you guys talked a little bit about like Pop Warner football is different than high school and college. And that's where some of these bad coaches are entering the field in youth coaches. Okay, let's talk about those. Billy, you talked about taking a bullet. You guys would take a bullet for your position coach, O'Leary, but not so much your head coach. It was just the opposite for me. I would have taken a bullet for my head coach, but not my position coach. All right. So that's the kind of dynamic that you see in these coaches with the relationship with the players. Okay. All right. Let's continue on. Then I'm going to ask a couple of questions. You guys tell some stories of a transformational or an asshole coach, a transactional coach. Let's tackle these last three. It takes courage not only to admit that these transactional moments occur, but to commit to self-assessment and contemplation. Number 3 in our types of transactional list is the narcissist. This is the type of coach who thinks it's all about him, the life of the party, craves center stage. He's the one that looks on the sideline when the clock ticks down. He's proud of himself, not his players. He lacks empathy for others. He doesn't care about other people. This type of coach is more rare, but it's much more dangerous because he lacks the ability to self-critique and do the inside-out work. He's unwilling to do the hard part, to ask himself the hard questions. Okay, that's the narcissist. There's also people out there in the world, avoid them, believe me. Number 4 is called the saint. This one had something to do with the Messiah complex. Coach Saint is someone who's so devoted to his cause that he completely forsakes and sacrifices something that should be important to him, like his family. This happens a lot in professional sports. Former Dallas Cowboy head coach Jimmy Johnson comes to mind because he admitted that working 16 hours a day, 7 days a week, left no time for his wife and kids. Sometimes the best teaching is let them to solve the problems on their own. All right, let's talk about the last type of transactional coach called Coach Misfit. He usually shows up in these youth leagues, top corner leagues. These are leagues that are dependent on volunteers. There's very little training. Their lack of knowledge of players' developmental needs stunt a young player's enjoyment. And that's when kids start quitting sports, when they're in middle school. The coach misfit, he needs his players' acceptance and obedience. He wants to feel important since he gets the title of coach. And he's a coach all image and no substance. I've seen him in college as well. He can be well-intentioned and charming, or it can be completely awkward and clueless. Okay, either way, his goals and behavior are destructive to young athletes. So let's sum it up. Transactional coaches may lead to negotiation and manipulation of threats to achieve their desired effectiveness. When players don't play well, automatic punishment. Now let's talk about, in contrast, transformational coaches. And this is powerful. This is the last paragraph I'll read. They realize the power of coaching platform is to inspire, motivate, produce positive change in the players. He or she is acutely mindful of the moral, social, emotional, psychological needs of young people. So transformational coaches offer individual support, encouragement to each player. They have a clear vision for the desired impact in the players' lives, and they encourage the people to simply play. I'll never forget when a player said to me in a letter he wrote to me after he graduated. He said, quote, "It was always comforting to hear amongst the anxiety of the pre-game that Coach Tripp always had one message for us. Just have fun." That was the number one thing he wanted us to know. So keep that in mind, coaches. Now it's time for Bible Verse of the Week brought to you by the Siler Agency. This comes from 2 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 5. Quote, "Examine yourself to see whether you are in faith. Test yourselves." One more thing. I read an article on Ricky Baldwin, a wide receiver from Gulf Breeze High School here in the Pensacola area. He was a great player at Stanford, a great player at Seattle Seahawks. And I read about 4 or 5 years ago in Sports Illustrated, this is what he did to emerge as an elite player. He said was to undergo personal growth and reflection of his mistakes. He said, "Self-awareness was my engine." Unquote. Wow. That's deep. Okay. That's what courage. People with courage. We go back to that. It takes courage to admit you're wrong and to try to be better at something. The big ego, the big ego in the room, right? He thinks he's the greatest guy in the world. He'll never get better because he thinks he's so good now. If I work on anything, I'm good enough. Guys, give an example of a transactional coach or a transformational coach, because I'm going to give one after you guys are done.
Let me, you talk about ego, and I'm going to talk to about examples here in New York State, and I've been around a ton of kids, and I've had probably close to 500 kids go through my program. And I'm going to tell you, I graduated from Liverpool High School here in New York State, and I've been to Liverpool to speak on several times. I've maybe had 2 to 3 kids out of the 500 or 600 kids through my program that come from Liverpool. Now, the word on the street is these coaches, because ego-wise, the coach at Liverpool at the time was afraid to send kids here thinking, I'm not coaching at another school. I'm not going to steal their kids. Right. I'm not going to boil them in water. What are they afraid of sending their kids over here? Right. And you talk about the third biggest high school in New York State, which is Liverpool, and they can't even make it to playoffs here. Now, when you look at the whole system of New York State football, and this is a big thing that really bugs me. And the kids are still coming through the programs. You still have the horses around here at these schools, But what's the common denominator stopping all these kids from going on to play Division I schools? You don't hear from them after they get out of high school. It's the damn coaching. I mean, the coaching level here in the whole is subpar, if not horrible. I mean, and I'm not afraid to say that. I'm not going to name names, you know.
Right.
And you look at in the past 15, 20 years, what big name coaches have come out of New York State that went on to coach anywhere? I can't remember. I don't know of any, you know.
Right.
So, you know, and, you know, not to put my finger on exactly one problem with one coach or other coaches, but as in a whole, we're not as a coaching staff, junior high, high school, coaching wise, we're not producing these kids to go on to have a chance to play at a D1 school or even a D2 or 3, you know. So that's my one of my biggest concerns, and I've said it for the past 15 years. And I speak at Pop Warner banquets. I go speak at fields. I go talk to kids all over and coaches, and they just want to continue.
Do it with their way. Yeah, their ego is so big they don't offer get any help. They don't look for any help.
Everything is you talk about ego. That's everybody's worried about I. It's an I thing, you know, and you're supposed to be in this to help these kids. And my philosophy when I coached was I thought of that kid to give him a chance to play at a college. That was my philosophy for coaching a kid. You know, nowadays, these coaches only care about themselves and who they can keep in their program and not help these kids go on to play anywhere else.
Right.
Well, but my thought is this: I believe there's a lot of young youthful coaches that have really compromised what they know to be right because they're worried about the reaction from a parent. If a parent is not happy, the administration learns about it real fast. One complaint, and now that coach is against the wall with, hey, we can't have that. Well, all I did was tell him to get his ass off the ground. If he wants to win, yes. Well, we can't really talk about winning the same way we used to. See, we're under an awful lot of attack right now with why football is such a life sport. It's a life sport because, hey, man, get your ass off the ground. And if you stay in the ground, you're going to lose out and you're going to lose the next time. Real simple logic.
Right.
Even our military. I have the Ross family that I'm real close to. Even the military has compromised how they deliver a life-saving message if someone's in a state of mind that they're a little bit fragile. Now, what happens? Hey, it used to be, see Billy out in front, everybody catch Billy. And if Blaze was at the end of the line, everybody now, today, wait up for Blaze. That's a completely different approach that coaches know better. They know better. But the Sabins, the O'Learys, the Tressels, the D'Antonios, they're all going. And now we have a school of coaches that have come in and that really are what? They're sensitive to the state of mind of the athlete. And if he's not feeling or she's not feeling well, hey, go take a seat and maybe you'll feel better tomorrow. And what does that do to the whole structure of raising men?
Kids, to go to work. That's right. To go to work one day when you're not feeling well, with your company, and you got somebody depending on you and your company that, you know, to do your job, and you don't want to
got
get
it.
out of bed. Yeah.
And what do we see all over America on the phone, at drive-thrus and everywhere? I don't care if it's McDonald's. Well, what a crappy job. Hey, we were taught from football, I don't care if you're a backup or a starter. You're one play away from starting and helping this team win. Well, where's that come up? Well, McDonald's, I hate this job. Well, why are you doing it? well, I have to make money, I guess, until I get on, some sort of benefit. Now, and people can say what they want about exaggeration. There is none. We are in a position right now where coaches are scared to death to do what they know is right. Because if they do what is right and they get the weakest link to become accountable, they're going to get probably in trouble.
Blaze, you're right. We got politicians like that. They're afraid to do the right thing.
We see it everywhere.
Politicians like that. So it's in general society. The comment in our society. Football.
It's exactly what our society is dictating to everyone now. You're not. There is no more mental physical toughness anymore. There's no more. You're not demanding that no more as even a parent, a coach, a mentor, anyone, and he's 100% right. And that's the reason I got out of coaching. I mean, you can't say the wrong thing or even think the wrong thing because you're getting pulled into the AD's office and you're going to get asked, why did you look at that kid in a threatening manner? And that's a true story. That's the only way I can look. I didn't know it was a threatening manner. Here's my key. Have a good day. I mean, that's it.
So
hey, I got a penalty for looking at a referee. Do you think I gave him an intimidating look? I didn't even say a word.
Really a trip. You're in a game that demands that you look at details and you are accountable for every one of those movements to somebody else. You're accountable not just to yourself and your God, but you're accountable to one another. And a coach is instilling this in you that, hey, you're responsible for your actions because it affects the other people that are sitting behind you on the wall. To Billy, to Tim, to Jamie. Hey, those brothers are counting on you. And this foundation lesson is going right down the fucking toilet because, well, we have to be careful because you know who's going to show up on the field asking questions? ABC, NBC, CBS, and all the other ones. And they're putting the mic there saying, why did you hurt the child? Why did you? It's really scary right now, but there are a few programs, quite a few, that will stay true to what the beauty of the sport is. And that is a coach instructing a staff and a staff changing the life of their young people.
I could tell you this in New York State, I don't know of any. So maybe you guys live in a different area over there, but here there is none of that. There is none. And my thoughts for football, as I grew up and as I look back at the game now, it was life lessons that you learned from football. That's what I took away from football. I wasn't about how many national championships or how many rings I had or how I made All-American or I made this and that. It was about teaching these kids to be young men and accountable for their life. And that's the way I look at a coach, if he's good or bad. And that's the whole process of a.
And there are teams down here, to be fair, with this whole conversation. There are teams in my area of Florida, and that we all know, and that win, and they turn out amazing young men that academically are sound, and they're all over Florida, these amazing programs.
They're all over Pensacola.
The administration makes sure that the coaches are protected, and they're protected from this culture that is attacking every coach in America, all over New York, all over LA, all over everywhere. And this is not Democrat, Republican. This is simply, there are a group of people that say, these lessons we believe in, stay away. And then the coach feels much more comfortable with sharing the things that he knows is right and he knows is wrong. And every once in a while, there's a fine adjustment of, hey, man, you can't be that way to a kid. You can't do that to a coach. There's always a few reminders of coaches that want to get over the top. But in general, hey, to wrap it up, the thought of there are programs that are elite for a great reason. They have great administration, great parent support, great coaches, and what I mean by a great coach is unselfish, there for all the right reasons, governed by the power of the Lord above, and all those guiding principles and rules that were set forth in the Bible.
Right.
And those are creating much more accountable young men to live life on a high standard.
Right. And there are guys out there. So let's not begrudge any of them, because they are doing wonderful things. So there are bad coaches out there that we need parents and other people to be aware of. Be aware of those five: the dictator, the bully, the narcissist, saint, and the misfit. Be aware of those coaches, and you want a transformational coach that can really turn your life around just by one conversation. George would never slap you pat you on the back, but he did give us helmet stickers that he was fair with, that we loved on Mondays, right, Billy? And then before our championship game, last game we ever played for him against Henniger, he stood everybody up and every starter up and said why we were good enough to beat Henniger. I mean, that was a transformational moment. That's what I'm talking about. Coach Bryant, I mean, he didn't even get my name right for the first 2.5 years, okay? I didn't play anything for him. I didn't even know he knew I existed. He called me up in his office. Going into my third year, he called me up in his office. And I thought I was in trouble because my roommate the year before was doing things that you could get in big, serious trouble for. So I thought they would, blame the Yankee walk-on. But Coach Bryant transformed my life with 3 sentences when I walked into his room, and that's the because of him thinking about me, knowing about me, caring about me, wondering where I was going to live, because I was they kicked me out of the Bryant Hall, out of the dorm. And so, he said he blows me away with 3 sentences, and it transformed my life forever. And I never had another one-on-one with him, neither did I need to have another one.
One thing I want to say is that I want to honor just for a moment the coaches that are still in Billy's life, still in my life, and still in your life. Again, another great point to be made is they never leave your side.
Right.
Great coaches. I am Paul O'Leary right now. What do you need? That's what he would say. What do you need?
Yeah.
I'm there for you. I call Jim Tressel right now, and he would say, "What do you need?" Mark D'Antonio, right this minute, I call him. Mark Levy, I call him right now. Bobby Ross, right now, his son, because Bobby's doing you of age. And this is what I mean about people that live it and breathe it for all the right reasons. They're about raising people and having them part of an extended family. They care about their well-being,
right,
and doing things the right way, not just when they're a player for them, but many years later. And I'm so blessed to have so many wonderful people. I started writing a list, and I'm like, holy cow.
Yeah,
I can't tell you how blessed Billy and I are, and I know you are too, Trip, to have influence of people beyond the 4-wheel drive and O'Leary.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Gosh, man, there's so much to talk about. It's Syracuse is playing Georgia Tech this week, and I don't know if you guys ever met Joe Ehrman, but he also has another book out that is really good. Season, I can't remember the name of it. Probably got it behind me somewhere. Joe Ehrman is a great Syracuse great, and if you guys get a chance, you should read that book, Inside Out Coaching, and recommend it to anybody. But all right, hey, this Saturday, you guys know Al Romano. Some of you guys know Al Romano.
Yeah,
right.
Very.
He was like a cross between. He was so good looking that he was a cross between Omar Sharif, Mark Spitz, and Burt Reynolds.
He's a Salve boy, right?
Salve from Salve High School. Yeah, he's going to be on Saturday morning at 10 o'clock. So everybody, tune into that. He's got an amazing story. It's just you can't miss that.
He's a good
man. Guys. Thanks for your time. Thanks for your love. Peace, man.
Blazy, love you, man.
Love you, brother.
See See you
Take
later.
care, Paulie.
Thanks, Billy. Love you guys. All right, stay tuned for these important messages. Those guys are fantastic. Without these great sponsors, this show just wouldn't be possible. So go check out their place of business and have a great sports night. We'll talk to you soon. So long.
There's a reason why Hill Kelly in Pensacola is the #1 selling Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram dealer between Jacksonville and New Orleans. While other dealers have taken advantage of a competitive market with higher prices, Hill Kelly has discounted prices to the lowest of the year. And Hill Kelly in Pensacola won't surprise you with excessive charges beyond the selling price. Come see why people from Milton, Pace, Foley, Bay Minette, Daphne, Gulf Shores, Mobile, and beyond are driving to Hill Kelly in Pensacola to buy their next new Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, or Ram. At Hill Kelly, the bottom line price and your satisfaction are what really matter. So before you sign, check the bottom line and make the trip to Hill Kelly in Pensacola to see what true local ownership can do for you. At Hill Kelly Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Highway 29 in Car City, Pensacola. Or shop online 24/7 at hillkellydodge.com. When it comes to bottom line pricing, nobody beats a Hill Kelly deal. Nobody.
75 years of service and high tech today. It's Pensacola Glass Company at 433-8348. High tech is a term often applied to advanced services and products in today's marketplace. And today, glass is much more than a simple painted brittle, see-through stuff we hit baseballs through when we were kids. Glass is now a product with unique flexibility in both performance and application. And Pensacola Glass Company is growing right along. That's Pensacola Glass Company at 433-8348.
Are you riding around in a filthy vehicle? Dirty car no more. Visit Ronnie's Car Wash today to get it shining in no time. They have 3 convenient locations with another coming soon. The unlimited monthly wash packages start as low as $14.95 per month with free vacuums, multi-purpose spray, and towels. Visit them in Gulf Breeze, Navarre, Fort Walton, and soon Crestview. Don't wait, wash today. Be sure to see Ronnie's Car Wash on Facebook to see the latest specials and discounts. You'll be riding and shining in no time.
That's you trying to fix the plumbing yourself to save a few bucks. Doing things yourself doesn't always end well. The same goes for insurance. That's why Auto Owners works with local independent agents who tailor coverage to meet your needs and offer discounts for life, home, car, and business insurance. Because sometimes you need a professional to get the job done right. That's simple human sense.
Drive a little to save a lot on 170 Buicks and GMCs at Step 1 Buick GMC. Get savings up to $4,000 on new Buick Encores, $9,450 on new Buick Envisions, $7,000 on new GMC Yukon XLs, or up to $15,345 off on new Sierras. Only at Step 1 Buick GMC, Pensacola. Plus tax, tag, title, license, dealer processing fee expires 7/31/24 on select new 24 in-stock models. Discount off MSRP includes all incentives.
My name is Steve Reynolds. I'm the manager and owner of Cordova Lanes, and we help keep your mind out of the gutter. Cordova Lanes is part of the community of Pensacola. Being here for 43 years, we've entertained more people than any other bowling center in the city. We self-fund for a living. Cordova Lanes is located at 2111 Airport Boulevard in Pensacola, behind Cordova Mall. Come on out and see us at Cordova Lanes Bowling Center. Thank you.